rather an amazing story because I was not aware of this, but it seems that the Chofetz Chaim had a granddaughter, perhaps it was a great-granddaughter. Well, I do not know what the circumstances were, but she became, I'm not sure forever, but at least for a time, became irreligious. And she came at one time, it was during the period around World War I, she came to the Chofetz Chaim. Airplanes were flying, which were relatively new events, and from these airplanes, they actually took sticks of dynamite and threw sticks of dynamite from the airplane. Preliminary bombs. And this granddaughter of the Chofetz Chaim came to her grandfather and said to him, Zayde, why don't you leave the darkness and enter the light? Don't you see that the world is progressing, technology, the advancement of human achievement? Why are you staying in this antediluvian belief system of yours? Why don't you come and join the enlightened world? So it's reported that the Chofetz Chaim reported to her the following. He said that I want you to know that if you're impressed with this airplane, that the people who built it will one day build such a craft that will actually fly to the moon. And if you're impressed with the fact that they can throw dynamite from the airplane, I want you to know that they will be capable one day of building a bomb that could itself destroy the world. But I want you to know, he told them, that it's not our interest. There are people in the world whose business it is to build bombs and to build airplanes, but we as Jews have a different task. And that task is, it is our job and it is our mission that we build people. That's our job. We build human beings. And really, at this moment, in the lives of these two very wonderful families, what we're celebrating this evening is the construction of a human being, or two human beings, and the construction of the home that those two very wonderful human beings of Be'ezer Hashem built. Reb Dessler writes on the subject of what does it mean to build a human being. How does a person come to know himself, to be himself? So he says that happens in three ways. First, he says a person finds himself in a moment of hisbodedus, in a moment of isolation, of being by oneself, of turning off all the noise and all the outside input and just having a few quiet moments to oneself, if anyone here can remember such a thing. But there is such a reality of a few quiet moments. The second thing he says, the second way a person gets to know themselves, he says, is b'mashu hu nosein ve'eno notel, that he is a giver, and he's in the process of giving and not in the process of taking. And thirdly, he says a person gets to know oneself when they are concerned not with what they will have and what they will acquire, but when they are concerned with who they will be. When they are more concerned with being than with having. If we think about it, not only is this true of the definition of how a person gets to find oneself, but it's the reality of how a chassan and kala, in their efforts to build a home, it really becomes the definition of who they are, not just as individuals, but who they are as chassan and kala, who they are as the beginning, the nucleus of the family that Be'ezer Hashem built. Because a chassan and kala has to know that who are they really? Well, if they're not in a situation where they can just enjoy themselves and their own togetherness and their own communication, but if they're in a situation where they need to be surrounded constantly by outside stimulus, that there needs to be entertainment, that there needs to be something going on for them to enjoy themselves, and they don't have the nucleus, they don't have the basis of the Jewish home. So chas and kala, they find themselves also in what they can themselves be by themselves. Certainly a Jewish home is one that defines itself as being a place of giving, and most definitely not just a place of taking. It's through the chesed of the giving towards each other, and the chesed, the kindness of giving towards other people, that again, the Jewish home is solidified, built, and finds its basis, its foundation in nucleus. And finally, a Jewish home is one in which the people that are within it are concerned not with the material possessions that they're going to accumulate, but they know that the secret of happiness lies not in what we have, but the secret of happiness in shalom, peace within the home, lies not in possessions and what we have, but it lies within who we are, who the chassan and kala become through their growth together. And therefore it seems that, with certain major simchas that take place in the Simon family, so Sukkot is that time. 3 years ago? 5 years ago? Yes, that's right, obviously. So 5 years ago, there was another simcha in this home, a little bit out in that Sukkah. And this is another stage, another type of simcha. But if we talk about these 3 ways of getting to know a person, of one finding oneself, we realize that they are contained within Sukkah itself. The first way, hisbodedus, being by oneself, well, that's what a Sukkah is about. The rabbis tell us that if chas v'sholom a person was chayav galus, they need to go into exile as their decree on Yom Kippur. So they can be yotzi, they can fill that obligation by going themselves into the Sukkah. The Sukkah is a place of quiet refuge, where a person can think about the higher and more important things in life. When one enters the Sukkah, so the Sfarim say that one should try to invite poor people into the Sukkah. And if not poor people, then we have the custom of the Ushpisim, of inviting the holy guests into the Sukkah. But the Sukkah is itself a place of giving. And finally, Reb Dessler says that in terms of being versus having, so the Sukkah, the simple walls with the thatched roof, is a symbol for us of Bitul Hayesh, of taking away the materialism out of our lives, and in the simple hut, surrounded by the Ananei HaKavod, by the clouds of glory, with a feeling and trust and bitachon in the Almighty. That is where a person is able to focus on those elements that will be who they will become. And they can leave for a moment the material possessions behind, so that when they return to the house, they have a different perspective on how to use those possessions for the ultimate good that the Almighty has created them for. That's what it takes for a person to get to know themselves. That's what it takes for a chassan kala to get to know themselves. And Sukkot is a particularly auspicious time to be able to accomplish that. And I can't say that I know the chassan very well, but I can say that when I entered this evening, he gave me one of the warmest hugs that I've ever received, and that to me says a lot. It says a lot. The kala I know a little bit better. And I can say that in terms of these 3 elements of knowing oneself, of being able to be deeply rooted in spiritual life, of not being tied to the material world, of being a giver, of being someone who's, needless to say, intellect, but intellect is something which is a gift from God. What it really takes is the lave, the heart, that enables you to take the intellect and do something with it. So that's something that Shifra has developed on her own, with the assistance and guidance of this very amazing home in which she merited to grow. Because if we take a look at that sukkah and what it stands for in those 3 elements, so those are the elements of the Simon home. It's a home that is self-contained. There's things going on outside, a lot of things going on outside. But it's a family which is an island, a secure fortress, an island against the forces of a lot of what goes on outside in that world. And the people within it love each other, care for each other, and are a self-sufficient unit that is capable of taking on the world. It is a home that I can testify myself, which is a home of giving, tremendously. And it is a home in which the highest principles of godliness, of character development, of Torah, of spirituality, of the real important things in life, the questions of being, lie at the center of that home. And although it is a beautiful home in terms of its physical enhancements and physical beauty, the true beauty of this home lies in the Torah and the neshama that has been imbued within it by the very holy and very special people that we live in. It's chassan kala, it's a board, it's sukkahs. It's amazing to be here. I will just close by saying that Sfas Emes says that Pesach was the Yom Tov of the Kiddushin, of the first element of the marriage between the Klal Yisrael and the Almighty, the symbolic marriage, and the culmination of it, the chuppah, the Cheder Yichud, if we will, is the sukkah. It's a time of completeness, it's a time of wholeness, and it's a time for everybody who's here to take a step back and appreciate what it took to create this generation, past generations, and we have the opportunity to look forward to a future which is being built on such solid roots and such a precious and secure nucleus that we know that the traditional blessing that we give at this time, that it be a home that will be built, that it be a bias nema, a loyal, stable, and trustworthy home amongst the Jewish people, We know it will be fulfilled because the people within it have all the elements of the self-knowledge and stability that it takes to build such a profound and purposeful and spiritually dedicated home amongst the Jewish people. A heartfelt mazel tov.
So I don't want to thank you for that. I thank you for the other things you said. Rabbi Yoel Burstein is the principal of the Beis Yaakov High School in Los Angeles, is here also, and I've asked him to please say a few words. So Rabbi Burstein, would you please come?
It'll be very few words. First of all, I'd like to say Mazel Tov to the wonderful mishpachas, both members of the Beis Yaakov community. Mazel Tov to the Simons and the new son that they've attained. Very precious, a son in the Simon family is a very precious. Just like to share with you a short word that I heard from Rabbi the Mashgiach of Leikos Echatzadik Lebrocha of Nosson Bachbegel on the Indian of Sukkah. The Gemara says that the neighbor of Rabbeinu HaKodesh, Rabbi Donny, was taking its cow to be slaughtered. The cow obviously felt that it was being taken to be slaughtered, so it tore itself away from the place of where it was going to be slaughtered, and ran towards Rabbeinu HaKodesh and ran under the coat of Rabbi Donny. Rabbi Donny whispered into the ear of the cow and said, Lech ki lekach neitzarta. Go, for this is your purpose in life. However we understand it, it seems that the cow understood, and it went and it was taken to Shifra. The Gemara says at that time, there was a decree in Shamayim. They said in heaven, Amru, they said, Merachem ala brias lo nerachem aleh. Since Rabbeinu HaKodesh did not have mercy on a living thing, on a cow, lo nerachem alav, we won't have any mercy on Rabbeinu HaKodesh either. And for 13 years he lied in pain and tsar. After 13 years, the Gemara states, he saw that the housekeeper of his home was sweeping, and there was a cat there. And as it was sweeping, she was sweeping the dirt with the cat. Amar, Rabbi said to the housekeeper, why are you doing this? V'racham al kol nasav ksiv. Does not the pasuk state that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has mercy on every living thing? How do you not have mercy on this cat? Amru, the Gemara says, Kamerachem alabrias, they said in heaven, he has mercy on living things, Nerachem alav, we will have mercy on Rabbeinu HaKadosh, and he was cured. He was no longer in pain. Says the Mashgiach, the Indian of Sukkah is we come to Rosh Hashanah, we come to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Shul, and we say, Rabbeinu Shalom, we accept you as a king. We're all yours. You're our king. We accept. We're your nation. Yom Kippur, we fast. We accept. We're your servant. And all the rest. And we hope that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wrote us for Aksiva and Gemara Chasima Torah. But we're not sure. So what we do by going into the Sukkah is that we're going under HaKadosh Baruch Hu's coat. Tzila de Mehimenusa. We go into the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, into the shade of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe we did not merit, but we're coming under your coat, and your Kamerachem al Abriyos, We're coming to your coat as the cow came under Rabbeinu HaKodesh's coat, and we ask, in that schus that we come to your coat, under your coat, let us be blessed with the Gemara Chasim Teva. This is true for all of us, or many of us. There's some people that always live in the shade of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ufreis Aleinu Sukkah Shleimecha is not only on Sukkot. There are people that live in Tzila de Menuse, they live in the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu their entire lives. And Baruch Hashem, Shifra, we know, has been in Beis Yaakov all these years in Eretz Yisrael, and all she wanted in a chosn is a ben Torah, a Yerushalayim, somebody who will together with her build a home where they will always be in the Sukkah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And all her excitement, and everything and anything she was able to tell me before the Shidduch came about, and after the Shidduch came about, is Rabbi Burstein, he's a true Ben Torah in every sense of the word. And for a girl who has no other aspirations but to build a Torah to go home, to build a Torah that will be l'shemul teferes to the Mishpach and to Klal Yisrael. For those people, they know they under the coat and they're in the Sukkah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they will be benched with a Gemar Chasim Teva, not only for this year, for a life of happiness for now and forever. Yetz Hashem, the teferes of their families and the teferes of Klal Yisrael. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Rabbi. I would next like to ask Rabbi Shifra Hollander, Rabbi of Venice, of Torah Learning Center, please to grace us with a few words. He's very close to our family, very close to Shifra. And then?
I knew I was in trouble when I said to the ask Rabbi Goldberg and the person speak first. Mazel tov to the Chassan and Kalin, mazel tov to the families. It's really a privilege to be able to offer Birkas Hedjid. I have a kasha. It says, you're not allowed to get married during Sukkot. Because ein marvin simcha b'simcha. You can't mix up joyous occasions. We're in the middle of a wonderful Yom Tov. So to go ahead now and to have a marriage, so that we can't do, because that's a joy in and of itself. And to mix up the marriage, the simcha, it's not a good thing. So, yet, obviously, we're all here, an engagement party is mutter. You're allowed to have an erisin during Sukkot, during Chol Hamoed. But in the halacha, you're allowed to. Just like in other times, and normally we wouldn't have a simcha. For example, during the 3 weeks, you're not allowed no other simchas, but you are allowed to have a simchas erisin. You're allowed to have an engagement party. Why? Shem yikat menu acher. Maybe if we wouldn't do it now, we might find a different shidduch when we go to different chasim. Someone else might clap Shifra, and we'd be in big trouble. So I have a kasha. I don't understand this. 40 days for the Yetziras of Vlad. When they first were created, a bas kol went out and said, Donny's going to be with Shifra. So what's the problem over here? Let's wait. We'll have sukkahs, we'll enjoy ourselves. Then we'll have another simcha afterwards. Y'all come back next week. Like, why do we have to jump? Why are we allowed to? What do Chazal see? I don't have to wait right away. I have to tell you, I don't know the answer. But my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Eisman, used to tell us that think. And if you think of something you like, so maybe it's emes, and it certainly made me feel a little good as I had a chance to think about it today. So I'll share it with you. My favorite story about a chassan in Kala, Rabbi Fran says over, there was a chassan, he was very nervous, and I'm sure Donny's not like this. He was sitting there, like this, and the Messiah Kedushin said, all right, do you have the ring? He says, yeah. So the Kala stuck out her hand like this, and he went and dropped it. And you could hear, a whole crowd. Bad one. So the chassan picked it up, and he went to put it down, and he dropped it. Oh boy. Everybody, this is what's going on. Maybe it's not the right kala. What's the big? The Masada Kedushin was a very smart man. He picked it up and said, I can see it wasn't quite time for this chasana to take effect. Now is the right time. Here, chasana. He put it on him and that boom, it should have went perfect. It's no joke. Rabbi Dessler says, Mi shemuchan lachtoif ulanatzel rega zeh shel siyata d'shmaya. Listen to the words. A person who is ready to grab, lachtoif, to chap, and to utilize every ounce of that moment of heavenly inspiration, hu yochol lavo yedei tikkun dom. He can come to a complete tikkun. When it's the right time, it's the right time. Not a second earlier. As my Rebbe used to say, 5 minutes too free is euch nicht pünktlich. 5 minutes too early is also not on time. When it's time, we're going to grab it. And maybe that's the pshat in Shema Yikad Menu Achra. Yes, there's a siyata d'shmaya right now, for this shidduch to work. And therefore, even though we're in the middle of a simcha of sukkis, we're allowed to say we've got a chap, lachtoy, to grab that siyata d'shmaya. So we can all come to a tikkun gomer. The tikkun gomer, the complete perfection, is going to come from this chassan power. It's not an easy thing to take that inspiration and go all the way. It's not an easy thing at all. When we make the Sheva brachas, and the Sheva, the chuppah, this chassan and kala, we'll make a bracha shakol aralich vaydoy. That we all are created in honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rashi says over there, do you know what? You know what's going on here? Hashem is the first Baal Chesed. He's the first one who led Adam and Chava down the aisle. And we all are so doing the same thing right now. When we go to a wedding, that's the bracha. And that's really what this chassan and kala and this simcha in the middle of Sukkot is all. Because what is the ikar nekuda? What is the whole idea of this chassan and kala? It seems to me, known Shifra as long as I've been here, haven't known Donny that much personally, but I've seen him across the base medrash. I've been going to Yula for a while, and I see this baruch who's wants the chap. They want the chap. They want the chap, and they want the chesed. They want to do for others. That's their goal. That's what they're trying to do. This sukkah is an opportunity for chesed. As Rabbi Goldberg had mentioned so beautifully, we invite Aniyim to come in. But we have to realize the purpose of that is to imitate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Gemara kind of says there were no more wonderful days in the Jewish calendar than the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. And it's really hard to understand. The 15th of Av was a wonderful day, among other things. It was the day that all the single women dressed in white, and the single men were able to see who is going to be their shidduch. So what is and on Yom Kippur, we're sitting in davening, it's the day of Yom Slicha Kapara. So what's the connection between Tu B'Av and Yom Kippur? I saw a beautiful word. Tiferes Yisrael says, because sin doesn't just soil our being as our neshama. We have a relationship with Hashem, and sin makes us distant. Yom Kippur is compared to Tu B'Av because Yom Kippur is also a day of a special shidduch. It's the shidduch between us and Hashem. And we have the opportunity how to show Him that we want to consummate that shidduch. To not just say, yes, we're forgiven, but we want to be together by the Yom Kippur Sukkos, by doing chesed, by being like Hashem. And we all realize in that sense, every home we have really is Hashem's home as we try and bring Him into our home. Again, it's hard to be more eloquent to Rabbi Goldberg, and I don't want to even try. But it's such a privilege knowing the Simon family. Their home truly is a sukkah of Hashem. We've been saying for over a month now, the David Hashem Ori, and we ask Hashem, Tatzileini b'sukkah, that God should save us, protect us in His sukkah. But I love Kriya Ktiv, as you all know, many of you know, that the word sukkah in Tehillim, His sukkah, is not written that way. It's written sukkah. We ask Hashem to save us in a sukkah. And yet, the way you read it is sukkah, His sukkah. Now Hirsch explains, and others, the written way is the way we understand it on the surface, the way we all appertain it. Hashem doesn't always put us in His sukkah, so we think. He puts us in a home like this, that is a refuge, a haven for so many people. And yet, it's truly deep down sukkah. It's His sukkah. And we have the privilege to be here today. Mazel tov again, Chassid and Kalman. Mazel tov for Simon, Mazel tov. We all have a chance truly to share in your simcha in the building of Binyan Aliyah.
I'd like to ask Donny to come up and to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you for coming. I'd like to introduce Rabbi Beckerman. He went to yeshiva with me at Karen Biavna. He was much older than me. He's in Cologne, right? Not much. Not yet, not much. But he came to Los Angeles and he was learning in the Kollel with Rabbi Sauer here for the past 3 years. And I've been getting very, very close to him in Los Angeles, so I need to say something.
Thank you, Donny. Generally, after 3 speakers, the attention span is shot. So I'm going to keep my words brief. And it's really a new beginning because I'm the first one really from speaking from a Chassid's perspective. My job is to speak, your job is to listen. You finish first, let me know. I want to share you first a personal anecdote. The last year that I was in Karen Biavna, which was about 4.5 years ago, was Donny's first. And Donny went back there after a while, but that was the year that Donny was thinking of going to attend USC. And he attended for a year. So I was sitting with Meredith Hava Chavrusa was the posek in Karen Biavna, and we were sitting as a Chavrusa right behind Donny. So the Rubinstein says to me, you know, Doron, I'm very worried about Donny. He's going to USC, and he's a charming fellow. He's incredibly bright, and if he grows a few inches, the girls are going to stick to him like flies. It's a big problem. He's like, he's very worried. Well, I see he was wrong. The girls tended to like Donny even though he didn't grow a few inches. Baruch Hashem. We had a meeting a few weeks ago with Donny and Shifra, and I was exceedingly impressed by both of their choices. But knowing Donny more personally, I want to focus a little bit more on Donny. We know that in the beginning of Parshas Matzah, we find a list of masos, the various places where the Jews stopped and stayed a while and picked up again. And nobody knows that list by heart. Very few, maybe Bali Kriya have been around for 50 years, know that list by heart, but nobody else. And it seems a little bit superfluous for the Torah to go through every place, right? Valisume, Risma, Vayachanu, Rima, and all these places where it seems like the Torah doesn't even tell us too much what happened in each place. It's just a list that goes on of the different places where the Bnei Yisrael stopped and camped and picked up and left. But Rabbi Garil explains that he says that's the point. You have to realize that under normal circumstances, if you have a nation traveling through the desert from one place to another with naturally no protection, no food, no water, some people should die off as you go from place to place. the point that the Torah is trying to drive home again and again is that they traveled from one place, came to another, and nothing happened. That was a tremendous miracle that Kadosh Baruch Hu provided for Klal Yisrael. Baruch Hashem, nothing happened. This mainly came about through the Anani HaKavod. The Anani HaKavod is what protected Klal Yisrael from all the outside forces that the desert has, that endangers travelers. It's a makom nachash torach ve'akrov. It's a place of snakes and scorpions where people should really die. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu protected us through the Anani HaKavod and flattened out the roads, and we had an easy way traveling, so to speak, through the desert for those 40 years. So if the Anani HaKavod represent nothing happening and we go into the Sukkah, so the Sukkah should also represent to us, Sukkah so Shanti Pnei Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu protected us. And we have to think that as we're sitting in the Sukkah that Baruch Hashem, nothing happens. How many times have I been to the doctor this year? Not too many, Baruch Hashem. There are people who have been more. How many times have I been able to kiss my children this year? Baruch Hashem. There are people who don't get to kiss their children as much. So the Sukkah really represents to us that love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not necessarily even for the great and bombastic things that He does for us occasionally, but for the day in, day out life that He provides for us, which is so wonderful, Baruch Hashem. Donny is a kind of person who embodies an incredible extent, I've known him for quite a while now, that level of Akaras HaTov, not necessarily for great things. But Donny is not only Makir Tov for those small things that others do for him, but he has that recognition. The small things that he does for others could sometimes count more than big things that others do. Donny focuses on what's really going to make a person happy, and Donny carries that out to the utmost. Donny is an incredibly driven person, both in terms of his Talmud Torah and his will to do chesed with others. And anybody who knows him sees that in him right away. Anybody who's come into contact with him for even a short while knows that Donny is both, again, incredibly driven and carries out his wills in terms of his avodas habori, in terms of his service of the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I'm sure that Donny is going to continue to do that together with his kala. And they're going to be able to build the bayis now in Yisrael. And that's my prophet really for this zivug that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should grant it. It should be only yafeh, and it should be a source of nachas to their families and to all of Yisrael.
I would like to ask just briefly, Dr. Weltman, Dr. Weltman, please.
I'm not going to say thank you so much, Weltman. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. But I'm going to pass to the question.
Okay, then I have just a couple minutes. First of all, I couldn't ask you to be here without expressing my thank you to all of you for your part in my life and Esther's life and our children's lives. I would name every one of you and remind every one of you how you've been dear to myself and Esther, and how you've supported us and helped us throughout the years, and how your example has been treasured by us, and your friendship and love is. I would do that personally for every one of my dear relatives, my parents, but I want to go a little bit further than that, just because I have very little time. And many years ago, I was at someone's Shabbos table who's here today. And at that time, I was not as observant as I am now. And I remember seeing the example at their Shabbos table. It was a modest Shabbos table, but it was a beautiful Shabbos table. It was a Shabbos table where there was kavod Torah, and kavod Shabbos, and kavod Hashem. It was a Shabbos table of people who were modest yet sincere and devoted to Hashem. And I remember being at that Shabbos table and looking at the Shabbos table, just looking at the dishes and the plates and the china and whatever and the food. And I was a single guy, you know. And I looked at it and I said, it's impossible. It's impossible. It's impossible. I could never do this. This is beyond me. It's beyond me. It's too impossible. It's impossible. And yet I said, as I looked at it, I said, in my heart of hearts, that's what I want. In my heart of hearts, that's what I desire. And I said, I'm going to go after what's in my heart of hearts. So, I say this to you because Shifra's our oldest daughter. And in my heart of hearts, even before she was conceived, even before I was married, in my heart of hearts, I imagined, I prayed that I would have a child who would be devoted to Torah. That I prayed in my heart of hearts that I would have a child who had the kind of midos that Shifra had. The thing that I didn't even know in my heart of hearts is that my daughter would marry a boy like Donny. That I didn't know, and that was hidden from me, because it would have been too much for my heart of hearts. I didn't know. It was enough for me to be blessed as I am. And the reason I mention this, and I say this to you, is because what's in man's heart of hearts isn't just from him. It comes from his parents' dreams for him. My parents' dreams for me. My grandparents, who I never met, who died in Auschwitz in the war, their dreams for me, for their generations to come. And all the other generations past who had it in their hearts of hearts to have Torah continue, to have the Jewish values, to have our ideals raised and purified, even in a world that was totally against us, even in a world that's totally hostile, even in a world that's totally upside down. And that I could come to this day, and this is not even your wedding day, this is the party, it's a nice party. But that I could come to this time and see clearly that Hashem, there's no chance, there's no accident, there's nothing other than the pure hand of Hashem in this world. And that if I let myself just trust in that hand and try to do what Hashem wants me to do, that I would have a blessing from Hashem. You and Donny are a sure sign to me that that's true. I thank you very much. I wanted to ask Donny just for 5 words to come up here, and then we'll let you.
Oh, Yishamah.
First of all, I want to thank Jenny Lefkowitz and her whole family for what they did. They got all the flowers and they did so much work today. Thank you very much. Thank you to my parents and to Shifra's parents so much for this also. And thanks to our siblings for putting up with us. I know it's hard. Alright. I wanted to speak about the 3 levels of spiritual existence that there are in the world. There's Toma, which is impurity, spiritual impurity, which we try to stay away from. There's Kol, which we'll talk about. And there's Kodesh, which is purity and spiritual goodness, which we always try to get closer to. So we know how to deal with the Toma, we stay away from it. We know how to deal with the Kodesh, we try to get closer to it. But how do we as Jews look at Kol? So Rav Hirsch explains that the word Kol comes from the word halal, which means a void. In Israel, if you go to Israel and ask how you say space, outer space, they'll say halal. It's void. There's nothing inside of it. And the way that you say, and the word Kodesh, Rav Hirsch says, is chronologically connected to the word Gadush, which means full of good things. So the Chol is something that's empty, and Kodesh is something that's full of good. So the Mesilas Yesharim has these three rungs within the ladder of reaching the ultimate spiritual good, and one of them is being a tzaddik, being a righteous person. One of them is being a chassid, being more than a righteous person. One of them is being a kadosh, someone who he takes everything that he has in his physical world and he uses it for spirituality. So everything that he has that's physical is spiritual, because what he's doing is he's taking the chol, he's taking the empty, the physical world around him that's void of meaning, and he's pumping meaning into it through the Kodesh. This is the idea. The Piskei Tshuva says that this is the idea of the Sukkah. We come out of Yom Kippur, where we have a day of complete abstinence from any physical pleasure. We say, we're going to dedicate ourselves completely to spiritual Kedusha, to Hashem. But then we come out into the real world, and we're presented with Sukkot, which is the time that we have to which is the time that we learn the lesson that we're going to take with us for the rest of the year, which is to take the physical and to use it. The Sifsei Chaim says that there are two types of mitzvahs. The type of mitzvah where the act of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself, like shaking a lulav, putting on tefillin. You don't have to think anything, because by the action of, there's a certain amount of kavanah that you do have to have, but the very action of doing the mitzvah is the mitzvah. But then there are other mitzvahs which we do, and they're things that we would be doing anyway. We eat, we sleep. These things we do as human beings. It's in our animal instincts to do them, but with the kavanos that we have, we elevate them into the mitzvah. So sitting in a sukkah, sleeping in a sukkah, eating in a sukkah, it becomes a mitzvah because of our kavanah. So we're taking the whole, the physical world, and we're turning it into kodesh. We're turning it into a spiritual mitzvah. The same idea is expressed by the mitzvah of tzitzis, hakanaf kisul tzitzis. We have a lot of white, and we have a little bit of blue. And the blue is wrapped around the white. The blue is Donny Lakisei HaKavod. It reminds us of God's throne. Explains that. And it's wrapped around the white strings, which represent the earth, the physical, mundane existence. And we take the white and we use it as a basis. We wrap the blue around it, and we take the blue and we make the white into Kodesh by taking the Kodesh and wrapping it around the white. This is the idea that the Meraglim didn't understand when they didn't want to go into Eretz Yisrael. They wanted to stay in the Midbar and have Hashem provide for them in a completely Kadosh existence, and they wouldn't have to deal with the physical world at all. Hashem said no. He put the parsha of Tzitzis right after to explain. You need the chol, you need to use the chol, and the ultimate purpose of humanity is to take the chol and to elevate it into Kodesh. And the Meraglim comes after Tzitzis. Korach comes before because he made the same mistake. But anyway, so Rav Kook explains that this is the same idea behind marriage, because the Keruvim were two, a baby boy and a baby girl, symbolizing the man and the woman in the Kodesh Kodashim. And in the Gemara they have a discussion where the rabbis wanted to take Shir HaShirim and leave it out of the Tanakh because it wasn't appropriate. And Rabbi Akiva said all of Kisvei HaKodesh are Kodesh, but Shir HaShirim is Kodesh Kodashim. So this idea of Kodesh Kodashim comes in. So Rav Kook explains that marriage deals with issues that most of the world treats in a tumah way. And Bnei Yisrael, it's not enough that we take it and we say, okay, we're going to leave the tumah alone, we're going to have it as chol. But we take it and we elevate it through kiddushin. We make it into kedusha, and we elevate the mundane aspects of the world into mitzvahs, into kedusha. And so they become kodesh kodashim. Because they're not only chol, they're not only kodesh, but they're taking the chol and turning it into kodesh, which is even greater. Ashreinu, we're very fortunate as Jewish people, and I'm very fortunate as Shifra, that we have the ability to take the chol and turn it into kodesh, and I hope that our whole life is, we do that, and our life is full.
really fast.
Count it, Henry?
Yeah. Can you imagine if somebody would steal my camera at this house?
No one's stealing. Don't even think.
I don't have my name on it. Think your skirt's long enough?
Oh, Shifra? Didn't think having a gila. I don't.
You want to take a picture? You want to take this?
Don't worry about it. He upset my life before.
Lima. Go around this place and take video.
I'll bring them tomorrow. I'll bring them tomorrow.
Just walk around.
There's more.
You can see everything on there. Just walk.
Come along, walk onto the boardwalk. Let me take one of you.
Okay, I will.
What do you want? What do you want?
Hi, Abba.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
Hey. Hola.
Well, I changed my mind. I tried to ask
Should I ask her? I'll ask her. Mommy.
Nobody do your thing.
See how it came out. Good picture.
Hello.
Develop it tonight. Email it to Joe.
Here, take your camera.
Right.
It's pretty when you go like this and you tilt it. And then you walk around. You see? No. Straight
Then what's going to happen
fine.
is everybody, when they look at that, is going to look this way. Cockeyed. You want to do that? They're going to say, who did that? I'm going to say, Blima did that.
Where's your camera? Take one of Wendy and I. Henry, take one of Wendy and I. Smile. Very good.
Everything's said and done. And the chiropractors are all, you know, up in, they're all
What?
but